stay here. Stay as long as you can. For the love of God, cherish it.
These are 20 more of my favorite metal albums from high school, starting with Static X with Wisconsin Death Trip. Now, as a fan of both industrial and nu metal, this was like the perfect collision of those worlds, and also with my introduction to Wayne's instantly recognizable syncopated vocals and hairdo. So many great songs that are both catchy and aggressive. Of course, you got the classic Push It, which I can't even tell you how many times I've jammed along to, as well as the equally infectious I'm Was Stupid, Fix, and Bled for Days. But I also like the kind of lower key atmospheric tracks like Stem and The Trance is the Motion. Just an all-around good time and an instant classic, if you ask me. Next up is Dimmu Borgir with Death Cult Armageddon. This was really one of my first introductions to black metal, and I think it's a good one as it eases you into plenty of the hallmarks while being admittedly much more palatable for more mainstream sensibilities, which is why I included it early up in my kind of getting into black metal video I recently put out. Absolutely massive symphonic orchestration here with Progenies of the Great Apocalypse being the song that hooked me to begin with. I don't think I knew until that point that you could mix classical and metal, and then throw in ICS Vortex's operatic vocals and my mind was truly blown. It would be a long time before I could really get into the more pure side of the genre with the likes of Mayhem and Darkthrone, but this was the primer and it still remains among my favorites. On a similar note, we have Cradle of Filth with Midian. Another early exposure to black metal, though I'll admit that these days I'd scarcely even call them that as the band doesn't often use that label. Regardless, this is a banger of a record right from the top with those raging guitars and synths on Cthulhu Dawn. Love the dark horror atmosphere and concepts tied to Stephen King's Cabal, or Nightbreed as the film version was called, not to mention the narration from Pinhead himself in Doug Bradley. It took me a minute to get used to Danny Filth's high-pitched shrieks, but after getting over the hump, I couldn't get enough of this one. Then we have System of a Down with Toxicity. The self-titled remains my favorite, but this was my first System of a Down album. I even remember where I was when the Chop Suey music video premiered for the first time. I also recall we were on a road trip and I had to choose between this and Slipknot's Iowa, and I ultimately picked this and went back for Iowa later. You've also got that amazing opener with those chunky riffs on Prison Song, the pure kinetic energy of Toxicity, and the sorrowful ATWA and Aerials as my other favorites. A little bit of a tonal whiplash when you've got both serious, topical songs and then goofier ones like Bounce, but it's all fun and fantastically performed, certified hood classic. Next up is As They Lay Dying with Frail Words Collapse. Continued revelations about Tim Lambesis aside, again, you just can't take these albums away from me. They meant too much. And this was the album that truly put their name on the map for me. It was a very big record getting into more and more different forms of metal. You've got that incredible opening riff from 94 Hours that myself and I'm sure hundreds of others were inspired to learn. All that Gothenburg-inspired guitar work. Same goes for Forever and Distance is Darkness. Love the almost insect-sounding guitars on 1,000 Steps. It feels a little stripped back in comparison to their later albums, and I think that their songwriting and performances only improve from here, but what an important record. Back to nu metal, we have Cold Chamber with chamber music.
Cynics of Christ like hypocrites, how they stick to you like glue.
Probably my personal favorite from these guys. People tend to talk more about the self-titled debut, but I'd argue as much of a perfect encapsulation of nu metal that album is, it's aged the worst for me. I like the slightly more melodic turn and increased dynamic songwriting of tracks like Tragedy and Tyler's songs. Still super heavy and fun, but with just a little bit more to chew on. I also love the string intro Mist and how it fits the album art and overall atmosphere. It's definitely not the most consistent album from track to track. Interestingly enough, that goes to Dark Days for me now. And the Shock the Monkey cover with Ozzy feels a little out of place, but overall, I really enjoy this one to this day. Then, of course, yes, again, we're going to talk about Linkin Park with Hybrid Theory. There is a reason why this album made such an impact on me, and I've talked about it in so many videos. It just dominated the airwaves the summer it came out and was perfectly executed in terms of what the genre is and would become, really. All of it still holds up for me to this day when listening to the likes of Paper Cut, One Step Closer, Points of Authority, Crawling, and In the End. And catchy singles aside, I also love the deeper cuts like By Myself, A Place for My Head, and even the DJ track Cure for the Itch. Timeless record that at this point I'd hold up with the classics. Then we have Taproot with Gift. Such an underrated album. I have probably worn out my CD copy of this one with just how many times I've played it. I have not liked any of their other albums, but this one stands tall with some of my favorite rapid-fire alternations between screaming and nasally singing on tracks like Mirror's Reflection, Again and Again, and Emotional Times. Also love opening tracks Smile and I, but really this is a headbanger from start to finish for me with both great hooks and that trademark dark, angsty atmosphere of the time. We also have American Head Charge with The War of Art. Absolutely love this album and consider it to be another one that is a little underrated in discussion. Another killer fusion of nu metal with industrial elements, but with an extra heavy, pissed off spin. A violent reaction kicks in the door so hard, and then you've got more gym anthems for me here in Pushing the Envelope, Never Get Caught, and Seamless. And just so you know, made for a killer single on the more melodic side. Despite being on the longer end with 16 tracks, I really enjoy most of this. It's just pure, undistilled nu metal angst. Then we have Norma Jean with Bless the Martyr and Kiss the Child. This era of metalcore is absolutely goated with that lingering classic 90s hardcore and mathcore influence. Tons of aggressive and highly dissonant tracks here like Face Face, creating something out of nothing only to destroy it, and of course the goated Memphis Will Be Laid to Waste. So many classic lyrics here like bringing a knife to a gunfight, she simply will not die, they're walking to Wall Street in a straitjacket. Josh was always the master of these. Let it be known to those unfamiliar that this is considered a seminal album for metalcore as a whole for a reason. More metalcore, we have Killswitch Engage with Alive or Just Breathing. Another huge metalcore album that pushed me towards yet more heavy music. I also consider this album to have such a unique kind of cold, isolated atmosphere in spite of its more melodic moments. This one got me through catching the music video for My Last Serenade. Love the juxtaposition of those big, pummeling, more hardcore-inspired verses with the incredible chorus. And then, of course, you've got that battering album opener in Numbered Days, killer stuff. On a similar note, we have Unearth with the Oncoming Storm. Produced by Killswitch Engage's Adam D, and another legendary album with so many classic tracks, starting right from the top with The Great Dividers. When I think 2000s metalcore, this is one of the songs that comes to mind. In fact, I remember picking up this CD at the mall at the same Hot Topic where I picked up Bleeding Through's This Is Love, This Is Murderous, and As I Lay Dying's Frail Words Collapse around that same time. Failure is another sick one with top-notch riffing. This Lying World has always been headbang-inducing with that opening riff, nice breakdown too. And I particularly remember my jaw dropping the first time I heard the solo at the end of Black Hearts Now Reign. Then we have Soulfly with Primitive. Hot on the heels of the already excellent self-titled debut, Sepultura's Max Cavalera continued to lean into the tribal influences of Roots while fusing them with plenty of nu metal groove. Not to mention a serious who's who here of the time with guest spots from Chino Moreno, Corey Taylor, Tom Araya, and more, as well as John Lennon's son Sean and one of my personal favorites in Sun Song. Other standout tracks for me, Pain, Jump to Fuck Up, Back to the Primitive, and Terrorist. Then we have Converge with Jane Doe. This was definitely another life-changing album for me in terms of my thoughts about music and emotional expression using it. I actually discovered it through one of those inserts that they put in a lot of metalcore albums to advertise others on the label. Such an intense mix of melodic sorrow and blazes of rage, making it the perfect angsty teen breakup album. I only learned to love the rest of this band's discography more from here, but this was the starting point. And then, of course, we have Korn with Issues. Another one I've talked about in too many videos to name at this point. It almost goes without saying that this needed to be included. I was actually surprised I didn't include it in part 1. Check out my Korn tier list for more thoughts, but in short, start to finish, fantastic. And then you've got so many standouts like Beg For Me, Falling Away From Me, Make Me Bad, Hey Daddy, Somebody Someone, Let's Get This Party Started. Really just one of my favorite metal albums of all time. People who say it sucks are wrong. Y'all check out this for part 1 if you missed it, or check out this for your personal YouTube recommendation. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.